Welcome to the second Software Spotlight. We want to talk a little bit about governance and how to use KNIME Business Hub to govern and control analytics and AI. Before I ask Jim on stage with me to talk a bit more about the details, I want to give a bit of context behind the guiding principles of Business Hub and how they actually relate to governance. So when we started developing the Business Hub years ago, one of the things we really want to make sure is that our customers can ultimately easily onboard their in-house community, not only on the Business Hub, but on AP, working with data, working with workflows in general. The ease of collaboration was important to us as well. This means we not only wanted to make sure that teams across the organization can maybe collaborate, like marketing with finance, etc., but also you can collaborate across personas. So you can collaborate between data scientists and data engineers and data scientists, obviously. You can also include the business users in the collaboration, etc. pp. So it's a collaboration platform for everybody working or being exposed to data or the results of data analysis. The other thing, obviously building workflows is fantastic, but you want to put them into production, you want to deploy them, you want to productionize them at some point. And this is where the ease of deployment becomes really important. We didn't want that someone builds a workflow and then has to go through lengthy processes to actually get it running in production as a schedule, as a data app, as a REST service, or as whatnot. And last but not least, we wanted to build all of that for scale. And scale is often related to technical scaling, right? More hardware, more compute resources, But we really wanted to make sure you can scale that also with internal operations. This means if you onboard user after user after user after user, you want to do that in a way that obviously internal IT, for example, also, or whoever is operating the Business Hub as a service within the company is not overwhelmed, and can do that for more and more users, for more and more teams easily. So how does this relate to governance? Obviously, when onboarding users, you want to make sure, especially new users, they actually do it in a really controlled fashion with only the nodes, for example, they want and can use. If they use Kai, they shouldn't actually use Kai and just send random data to OpenAI or to whoever. In terms of collaboration, you want to make sure you can share best practices, you can actually help the users use the right tools in the right way, with the right guardrails. When putting something into production, you really don't want to put something into production with this malicious Python code in there, or some nodes which are not compliant, or some data is leaked or whatnot. And then after all, you want to give the internal operations team and the governance team the tools at hand to give everybody the right guardrails to work independently, but still be able to control everything centrally and dynamically with the compliance rules, within the compliance rules of the company they are working in. So with that, I would like to welcome Jim Falgout, Product Lead Business Hub, on stage. And he will talk about more the details of the governance pieces in Business Hub.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here today. Okay, so when we talk about, I guess I can ask the question, why are we talking about governance, right? Why is it important? It's really important to large companies, to business entities, government entities, as far as, as they grow and they get larger, they have to have some sort of governance that controls, costs, that controls scaling up the organization, that controls like how do you deal with the regulatory, compliance, things like that. So that's what governance is all about. That's why it's important. Now, with Business Hub, we really try to be very not be prescriptive about governance, right? We try to build in very flexible things that you can use to apply your governance to, but we're not trying to tell you kind of like how to do it. Okay, so when we think about governance, like within KNIME, within the two products that we have, the analytics platform and the Business Hub, it's really a balance between innovation and control, right? So you don't want so much control that people don't innovate anymore, but you also need to be able to put things in production in a way that is safe and that works and is protected. Okay, so analytics platform is great for, you've seen people do some really amazing things with it today. It just has, so much capability, so that lots of creativity, lots of intuitive, lots of creativity, lots of, I'm sorry. I was supposed to click this. Lots of innovation going on there. But with Business Hub, this is where it's kind of the center of governance within this architecture, right? It really helps you safeguard data at scale to accelerate that innovation that you get from the analytics platform. It's governed kind of centrally, so it kind of becomes that central hub for governance, for workflows, for AI models, for whatever you want to control within Hub. Okay, so let's talk about data. So everything that we talked about with data analysis, of course, you have to be able to access the data. And how do you do that? Well, data is everywhere, right? So you have data in external systems, Databricks, Snowflake, databases, whatever that may be. So how do you get to it? Well, you usually have to have some sort of authentication into it, which means you need some sort of credentials or authentication tokens, whatever that may be. Okay, so where do you put them? So within Hub, we have the secret store. So that allows you to add secrets into the Hub, and then they can be accessed through integration with the analytics platform. I think earlier, Carson showed the secrets retriever node. So the secret retrievers node, once you point it to a Hub, it can read one of those secrets, and then it can be applied in your workflow. So let's say you're connecting to Databricks, you grab the secret for connecting to Databricks, it gets passed directly into the Databricks node, and then you connect to it, and you have access to your data. But the nice thing about that is, from an analytics platform, if I'm a user building a workflow, and I use that secrets retriever, I can't see the credentials, right? They're hidden from me. You can totally control on Hub who gets to see the actual values of the secret, or even edit them and add new ones. So, we definitely have that kind of division of control of who can do what. Another really important part of this is key rotation. So most enterprises will, rotate keys every 3 months, every month sometimes, or maybe even every week with some who are very strict about security. Security is always multi-layered, right? So this is just kind of one layer of that. All right, so what does key rotation mean? That means you just basically change the password, right? So you have to change that, whatever it may be, whatever mechanism you use. But the nice thing about that is it changes in the Hub, but the workflows that you have, you don't have to change them at all, right? They reference the secret value has changed, but they don't care, right? They just use it to log in to whatever system they're working with. Okay, Business Hub could also act as a center of governance for KNIME AP, for the analytics platform. So analytics platform supports what we call customization profiles. These profiles can control things like which nodes you can see, lots of settings within the KNIME itself, database drivers, and lots of other things I didn't list here. But the idea is that you can create those customization profiles within Business Hub, and then you can assign them to a team, or you can assign them to multiple teams. Really up to you. You may have a marketing team that needs particular nodes, or particular settings, or database drivers, but your finance team has totally different needs. So you can use these customization profiles to manage that. And it's all, again, managed through Business Hub. Okay, governing workflow deployments. So what's important about that? Really, it's about, once you've built a workflow, you've got some great work that you've done there, eventually you're going to have to put it into some sort of production environment where other people can use it. So how do we kind of control those deployments? How do we maintain security around those deployments? So we'll talk about that. Okay, so Michael talked this morning about data apps, about APIs, and also we have ways of creating schedules. So there's ways of controlling all that, like who can create schedules for data apps, who are the consumers that can access those data apps. Like if you have a finance data app, you probably don't want everyone in your company accessing that because it deals with sensitive data. So it's very important how that's controlled. And kind of the same thing with APIs, right? Once you open an API, of course you can determine also who could access that. Okay, but how do you get all these workflows from development, doing some sort of testing and maybe verification with them, into some sort of production type of environment? So we use what we call continuous deployment for data science, or CDDS. So this is a framework that we built that allows you to help, have your DevOps or your model ops or your ML ops, whatever you call them today, have them help you kind of get from environment to environment, how does the workflow and the data with it, the models with it move through that pipeline, and how do you control that? Okay, so I'm going to set up a little bit what we're going to talk about here in a minute, but just bear with me a little bit because you probably know about workflow versioning on the Hub. But within a governance standpoint, we really think about tracking and auditing changes to workflows. What is a version? So if I've been working on a workflow, I now want to kind of capture that state of that workflow at that point in time, I would create a version. And then the workflow is saved in that state. You could always go back to it at a later time. You can also see that workflow history, as we're shown here. So I have two different versions of this particular workflow. And I can always roll back to a specific version if I wanted to. We have this new feature called labels on versions. And you can see here, sorry, I'm going to step in front of this real quick. You can see here I have a couple of labels added to each of these versions. And we'll talk about why that's important here next. Okay, so how do you manage the execution of workflows so that they're secure, that they're safe, workflows that have been validated, they're meeting all your standards as far as governance goes. So this is what, the kind of we're aiming for, and using those version labels as I mentioned before. Okay, so moving towards execution, you want to validate workflows before they're executed. Make sure that, again, that they're meeting your criteria. These version labels indicate a state of that version, and we'll see how that works here in just a minute. You can also label execution context. So when you run a workflow, it runs within the context of an execution context, and you can actually label that workflow to help you decide which workflows have been validated, and they can actually be run within this execution context, or not run within this execution context. Okay, so what's the process here? I'm just kind of walk through. I've developed a workflow. It happens to use some Gen AI nodes. So I'm connecting to a Gen AI service, and I'm passing data to it and getting results back. So I create my initial version. I'm really happy with it. I worked really hard on it. I think it's ready to go. So I create a version, and that triggers a validation. If you haven't heard of triggers before, it's a feature within KNIME where you can capture a new version is created, a new workflow has been added into Hub, a trigger happens, and you can actually run a workflow to handle that trigger. And that's where we're doing validation. Now, it's a workflow, so you can do anything in that workflow, right? So if you want to do some sort of validation that we don't support, or maybe we give you a reference implementation of a validation workflow, all you do is change the workflow and keep it up to date with what you want to do as far as validation. Okay, so validation happens, and I got a label put on, or two labels put on my version. One says anonymization is missing. The other one says approve or reject it. Okay, so we have within this scenario, we have a policy that says if you're going to use a Gen AI node, you have to anonymize the data before you send it to the Gen AI service. I totally forgot to do that. Okay, so what happened was my validation failed. You see approval rejected on the label. I try to run it. If I try to run the workflow, it's not even going to run, right? Execution context says, nope, it has to be approved. This one's not approved, and that's the error message that you get. Okay, so I'll go back to the drawing board. I add in the needed nodes. I create a new version, and this one got approved. And so now I'm ready to run the workflow, and it will run successfully. So just giving you an example of what this can do, again, it's very generalized, or it's very flexible, so you can use it any way you want to. But we thought of this as an example of how you can use version labels, how you can use the CDDS process to help you make sure that you're not putting workflows into production that don't match your criteria. Okay, AI governance. So we talked a lot about AI today. Governance is governance, so now we're just talking about how we do governance around AI. Okay, we talked a bit about Gen AI Gateway earlier, about how it's used, but I just want to kind of put a little bit of a governance spin on it. Of course, you can decide which one of the LLMs you want to support, or which ones you don't want to support. You actually build that out in Business Hub, and then there's a node called the KNIME Hub Chat Model Connector node. And the idea, yep, there it is. The idea is that you want to use that node, because when you use this node to connect to OpenAPI, it goes through Gen AI Gateway. And if OpenAPI is not supported, you wouldn't even see it on the list. So you only get to see things that you actually have access to. And all that's controlled centrally through the hub. So, and one other part of that is we have a way of kind of making nodes not visible to users, right? So, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But the idea is that all the other kind of Gen AI connection nodes, you can just hide those and only use the chat model connector that goes through Gen AI. And then that way you have total governance on what people are doing AI desktop or even within the hub. A big part of governance, of course, is monitoring. And so we built a data app called the KNIME dashboard. So this will actually help you monitor the usage of KNIME. I think Adrian talked a lot about KNIME earlier. So that's if you're in AP and you're looking for help on building out a workflow, you're using KNIME. So KNIME allows you to, of course, use this app to monitor it. To build some workflow, to build some output, a data app, so that you can actually then, a dashboard sort of, that you can actually then access and visualize it. But we also have the raw data that you can accept, and then you can use that to, whatever standards you have as far as governance of that, you have that data to use yourself. So the KNIME dashboard monitors users, like which users are actually using KNIME, conversations they've had with KNIME, and then also cost. So that way, if you want to have like some sort of cost per team as far as who's using KNIME, you would be able to do that. And as far as the services that are used to implement all of this, they can be deployed at, this is a screenshot of our configuration when you're actually deploying Hub, when you're first installing it. You can either disable or enable the AI service. If you enable it, there are a few things that you can select as far as how KNIME is going to interact with and what it's going to use, which LLM it's going to use, and more. So again, it's just a way of governing. If you don't want to have it, don't want to have it installed, you're not going to use it now, that's okay. Just turn it off, and you can go back later and enable it, and then the services will get deployed, and then you're good to go. Okay, what's cooking in Business Hub? So at KNIME, when we talk about what's cooking, we just really mean what's on our roadmap. Now, I'm not going to show everything that's on the roadmap for Business Hub right now. I just want to show a few things that were more governance kind of related. If you have any other questions about KNIME roadmap, ask me or Christian. We'll be happy to help. Okay, so we're working on integration with Microsoft Fabric. So why is that under governance? Well, you have a lot of customers who use Microsoft Fabric, and they have a lot of governance built into that system. And so integrating with it really helps them feel comfortable about the things that they've kind of controlled within Fabric itself. Okay, we talked earlier about the continuous deployment framework. We're going to do updates to it. Right now, it doesn't use the version labels as I demonstrated today, but that's the direction we're moving in. We're also adding these new environment variables, and they're very contextual. So we're going to add usage of that also. And by contextual, I mean, like first I would say it's about workflow stability across environments. So think about like a dev test production type of environment. You have 3 different environments that you work in. Developers work in the dev one. You do some testing of workflows to validate that they're okay, ready to go into production. Then they move into production. But let's say like you're using a database, and it has a JDBC URL. It's just a way to connect to the database. But each database, the dev one, the test one, the production one, it's going to be a different URL. What I can do then is use one of these contextual environment variables, which I think live in Secret Store. And as you move across environments, it knows enough to say, yeah, this is production, so we're going to use the production value of that variable. So that way you don't have to change your workflow as you move it from environment to environment. Okay, we're also working on improved governance capabilities to help onboard and manage new teams on Business Hub. May seem like, why is that a problem? Well, we have customers with over 200 teams, and as new users come on, some of them are in multiple teams. Yeah, anyway, with thousands of users, it gets to be an issue, so that's something we're also working on. Okay, if you care about things like Helm charts, we're moving towards a Helm chart-based deployments. We use Replicated now, but we're moving towards more industry standard technology like Argo CD and OpenShift. Flux is another one, Flux CD and OpenShift operators. a lot of our larger customers are really asking for that, so just want to kind of bring that up. Also, we talked a lot about Kai and GenAI Gateway. Today, they don't work together, but we do want Kai to go through GenAI Gateway so that, again, you can just, through Hub, you can decide like which GenAIs you want to use or LLMs you want to use, and then Kai would only use the ones that you've of course, configured. And there's one other big thing that we want to talk about with Business Hub. We kind of showed it off already, and I thought Karsten and Adrian did a pretty good trick that they were actually doing all that work in the browser, editing all those workflows. And so, of course, we're moving towards workflow editing in Business Hub. From a governance standpoint, what does this mean? Well, once you have AP running within Hub and you're editing workflows, that means you have total control over what API versions are available, what extensions you have installed, what Python environment you have installed, or if you even have Python installed, and lots of other customizations that you can do. Now, that can be like per team, or it could be, if you have a shared context with multiple teams, of course, that would be within that context. And it helps you to roll out new versions and such. Maybe you have some of your users or teams that are happy to use a new version and try it out. Other teams want to stay on an older version, right? You can totally do that within Hub. One of the really, really big reasons about this is data doesn't have to leave the Hub. So if I'm sitting at my desktop, I'm on my browser, I'm running a workflow, the data is not coming back and forth to my laptop. That's a really, really big issue for a lot of our very, very secure customers, right? They don't want any data to hit your laptop. They want it to stay on the very secure Hub. So this is a big issue this is a big issue to our customers, and so we're definitely moving in this direction. Part of the issue of like kind of why, sorry, thought you were Christian. Part of the reason why we wanted to do this is, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, workflow editing on the Hub coming soon. Christian, we're done? Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.